Good morning. It's a very special day to be here. So a lot of fathers here aren't going out for breakfast, but maybe lunch, so that's a good thing. Father, the word father is the giver of life. And I love Father's Day because we get to appreciate everyone, because without one, we wouldn't be here. Now that's the nice thing. But the interesting thing this week in my writing class, our original topic that we were assigned from home office was Fathers Fix It. And it was like, they don't always fix it. And so we changed it to what fathers teach. And it's like, okay, well, I asked my writing class, what are your thoughts about fathers? And they all got in their little groups. And when they came out, I was really amazed. Some had great fathers and others just didn't want to talk about it. And I thought, that's interesting. And so I asked a little bit more, and grandfathers came up quite a bit. And then sometimes bosses came up, or neighbors, that gave that fatherly emotion or that fatherly direction. So today we're recognizing all of those wonderful men who encouraged us, who provided or protected us, and who gave us that sense of awareness and love, I think, just beautiful love. But then there was this comedian, I thought it was so cute. He said, Father's Day is nothing like Mother's Day. If you ignore Father's Day, you're going to live to tell about it. If you ignore Mother's Day, you do it at your own peril. He said, the nice thing is dads don't put us on guilt trips, so families don't fear forgetting Father's Day. But usually what works is a giant card that says, Happy Father's Day, thank you for all you do, and, that seems to fit the bill. So this week brought me back to my childhood. Paul and I talked a lot about this week. Being a modern dad, you know how to balance coffee, beer, yelling, hugs, how to make the family happy. Well, my father died when I was 10. And he was in the Army and became an Army mechanic, airplane mechanic at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And our last name was MacIver. And my dad was so tickled because he was originally from New York, and he made best buddies at Wright-Pat, and they were the four Macs: MacIver, McCullough, McCarthy, and McGuffey. And they became wonderful friends, and so did our families. And most Saturday nights, the four Macs and their wives got together at our house, and they played pinochle and drank beer. They drank jug beer. I don't know if you've heard of jug beer. In those days, there were no cans. You took a gallon jug to the local tavern, and they filled it up with draft beer, and that was the way you got beer. So they had their jug beer parties. And us kids were always playing, but there were always some babies. And what they would do is put the babies in the bathtub on a blanket. My mom said the reason was they'd be checked on frequently. I hope you got that. It was hysterical to me when I heard that. You had me in the bathtub. Oh, God. But other than going to air shows and visiting my mom's family, I don't really remember bonding time with my father. Today, it would not be approved unless you had parental bonding. It just wouldn't be right. But back then, it wasn't part of my relationship. So here I am, 6 decades later. Whew, that's a long time. And I find that no matter how self-sufficient and how confident and how mature I am, I still criticize my parents. My soul chose them. Your soul chose your parents. We chose them, and they were perfect for us from God's eyes. So I'm grateful to my parents, and I'm grateful to everyone. I had a boss one time that was probably one of the best father figures I've ever had, and so I like to appreciate him. But what is father energy, really? For my husband, Paul, he grew up in Wisconsin, and his father left when he was very, very young. He was raised by his grandparents on a farm, and his father energy came from his grandfather, learning how to milk cows. And I'll never forget, he said, the best thing I ever learned about milking cows is you take the tail and you tie it up first before you start milking. Otherwise, you get swatted in the head. And so he learned a lot from his grandfather on that farm in Wisconsin. So perhaps you had something like that go on in your life. Did your father or grandfather like sports or like fishing or just sitting in the yard or gardening or, all of those different activities that when you spend time and that energy with them imprints on you. And you take that energy and love with you. Some families' dads worked a lot, and when my dad was gone, my mom worked a lot. But today I am so in awe of fathers who take on more of the caring business of children, fathers who take on more duties, because children learn by example. They don't necessarily learn from your words. Many fathers have a challenge with heart-to-heart conversations, those where it's like, oh dear, do I have to talk to my child about this? So they rely more on symbols, shared activities. Like the little gift you got today is a little airplane. And you probably flew these little balsa wood airplanes when you were a child. And a simple activity of doing that with the father figure is an incredibly bonding experience. So perhaps this gift today will help remind you of those special times. Working around the house, doing projects, or even learning how to plant seeds in a garden so that the garden will grow. Or I know my cousin's dad used to say the lawn had to be mowed this way, and then this way, and this way, and it was like, holy cow. So anyway, he was imprinted on good lawn management. But when Sue suggested this week that we use these little planes as a gift to you, it brought back memories of my teenage years in Ohio. When I was 16, a German family moved in across the street, and their 17-year-old son loved to build model airplanes, and they had a shed behind the house where he did that. And he invited me to join him in that activity. That he was good looking had nothing to do with it. But he invited me in the shed behind the house, and he always had country music playing. I'd never heard country music before. The old Ernest Tubbs and Waylon Jennings and all those wonderful singers. And we listened to country music for hours and hours. And then we would soak the balsa wood. We would cut it, bend it, shape it. We would cover it with heat shrink fabric. We'd put the dope, it was called dope. We'd put the primer on it. And honestly, it was a very innocent time, very innocent. And when the plane was ready, his whole family, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, mom, dad, the brothers and sisters, everybody jumped in vehicles and we went into the country, and we had a favorite country road that served as the airstrip. So we were out there and everybody was very excited, and he would hold this plane up with a wingspan of about this. It was a huge planes he made. And he'd hold it up and start the engine, and everybody was excited. And I'll never forget one time he's holding it up and the engine just flew away, and he was holding the plane. And that was hysterical. We laughed about that for months and months. But when the whole airplane did go down the runway and take off, and he had his remote controls, it was so exciting. And he would buzz over the head and over the cornfields, and it was just a really great family activity. And then at some point, the plane would go out of range, and everybody would jump into their vehicles and go down these country roads, and all in German, of course. Lot is going this way and that way, and everybody's just trying to keep track of this plane, and it has a mind of its own. And so finally, the plane would run out of gas, thank goodness, otherwise we'd be in Kentucky. And so when it ran out of gas, then the hunt was really on. It was great if the corn was already cut, but if it was this cornfield like this high, it took quite a bit of effort and yelling and pointing to find the plane. So if the plane was okay, we'd gas it up and start all over again. But if it was damaged, it was everybody go home, go into the shed, start repairing this plane. But at dinner that night, that was the topic. all the different things we did all day with this crazy plane, and of course, lots of aunt and uncle and parental advice on how you can do it better. Now, you know that's the German way. You can always improve that. So it was my experience of a tight-knit family, which I had not experienced until that time. Now, I have to tell you, 3 years later, we did get married. And, you know, it was a wonderful 21-year journey. And Paul and I have been together now 25 years, so we beat that one. But what I learned through all of this is how powerful words are. They can propel people around you to fly high, or they can inspire people, like watching that model plane fly through the air. But some words can take us on a nosedive, and we end up in a cornfield. So it's important today, in these trying times, to think about the words we use. And we have to be strong in the face of all the negativity confronting us every day. And our words make a difference. Whether, as I said a couple of weeks ago, are we poisoning ourselves with negativity, or are we enriching ourselves with the words and thoughts we use? As we grow stronger in this, in knowing the truth about ourselves, it improves our mastery of the spiritual path. And today I invite fathers to consider, if you haven't already, practicing the pillars. There's 5 pillars of spiritual practice that will open you to a greater communion with your soul, a greater connection with spirit, and it will bring more peace and joy in your life. The first pillar of spiritual practice is study. We know that one because you often may wonder why we have so many darn classes to take and how you're supposed to choose between all of those array of really great classes. But there's so much value in learning the language, in learning with other people, doing exercises, and finding that not every opinion you have is necessarily helping you. There may be a new light or a new level of depth that offers deeper meaning to you. But what classes do is support implementing this philosophy in your life. The second pillar on the spiritual path is prayer. Prayer is communing with God. Sometimes we forget prayer until we're in a difficult situation or even a tragedy. But daily prayer is directing our thoughts to the one, directing our thoughts to a higher order of thinking. Someone loaned me Neil Donald Walsh's new book, Volume 4, Conversations with God. It's on audio, and I've been listening to it going back and forth. And the intimacy of his communion and connection with that voice is phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. Now, the way we commune with God in our words and our prayer is through spiritual mind treatment. It is a 5-step process also, and it aligns our mind with spirit. Now, the middle part of spiritual mind treatment is an affirmation. It invokes something that we want to change and how we want it to be. Not how it isn't, how we want it to be. And it builds on this thinking process. So we start with step 1, aligning with God. Step 2, knowing we are an individual creation of the one. Step 3, that affirmation. I accept for myself, this is how I want my life to be. So it clarifies our state of mind, which is very helpful in today's times. And that third step becomes the total purpose of our prayer. The next step in spiritual practices is meditation, and that's the activity of listening. Not talking, just listening. Because sometimes our mind fools us and says there's no other option than what I can think of right now. But meditation puts our mind on something else. Surrender. It puts our mind in an atmosphere of surrender where there's no thoughts or feelings or expectations. We just are. But there's emotional benefits to it. Emotional benefits. And one is we gain a new perspective when we aren't having our chattering mind running running crazy. We get a new level of self-awareness because we're in the present moment. It reduces negative emotions. It actually increases our imagination. It increases our imagination. It opens up that space where we get new information, where we see things in a broader, different way. And it increases patience and tolerance. Meditation will do that. And I'll share more about that in a minute. Because the fourth pillar is circulation. There's a natural order in giving and receiving, you know, the yin and the yang, the I and you, the hot and cold. There's circulation always going on. And we do this in gratitude because it's important to be grateful for what's given to us. Because when you ask in prayer and then you receive, it's important to say thank you. Just say thank you. Sometimes gratitude is a cause in and of itself, because we have the law of cause and effect. Something establishes a cause and then an effect happens. Gratitude can be a cause. I'll tell you why I know this. Personal experience yesterday. Paul and I spent 1.5 hours in the Verizon store with my new smartphone that wasn't working. And it just had one little thing that they needed to change in the system. Well, it might have been a minor thing for them to do it, but what happened is the clerk that was helping us had to talk to 7 different people in the corporate office to finally get the system to take his changes. So he was holding it together pretty well, young guy in his 20s, and he was saying, "Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience. Didn't I just talk to you? I got different," he was trying to be very nice to all these people on the phone and smiling at us. And what we were doing is smiling and breathing, just smiling and breathing. Hey, it's just time, it's just time. He's doing the best he can. So when it was all over and he pushed the button and yay, my phone worked, he said, "I just got to thank you guys for being so incredibly patient." And I said, "You know what? I have to thank you for letting us help you learn more about how to use this system, because I know now you're going to be better for the next customer that comes in line." And he went, "Whoa." He didn't know what to say. He probably thought we were a little crazy. I don't know. But it was how I felt at the moment, because we were just sitting there smiling and breathing for an hour and a half. So that is now cause to help other people. The effect is going to be the next person that comes in, he's going to feel more confident, more assured, and the next time that issue comes up, he's going to know what to do sooner rather than later. We joked with him because he collected all my personal information so often. Paul said, "I bet you're going to go to sleep tonight and go, God, I get that woman's phone number out of my mind. Maybe I should call her. Is she okay?" And we were laughing and having fun with that. The fifth pillar is selfless service, what we call seva, which are acts of service with no personal gain. Because we understand we're part of the divine. And I love this description of seva. We don't move faster than the speed of love. When you do seva, when you help in any way around here, whether it's in the kitchen, in landscaping, anything, we don't move faster than the speed of love. Now, how do you think that feels when you're done? There's such joy that comes from that. So for all dads here this morning, I hope you enjoy this afternoon, and I hope you get out your little plane and don't forget to put the nose cone on. Oh, well. I have to thank my first husband for that. No. So thoroughly enjoy your day and consider these 5 pillars of spiritual practice. They will anchor your life in ways you would not expect, and you will have a joyous and blessed life. So let's go into prayer about that. On this glorious day, even though it's hot outside, it's warm in our hearts. For fathers, father figures, the next door neighbor, a boss. those males in our life that gave us the perspective of kindness, love, all the ways to be in life as a father figure, to be embraced with the knowing that we chose that person in our life. We chose them for whatever gifts they gave to us, whether we understood them then or understand them now. Because the truth is, it's this beautiful dance of creation, this beautiful dance of spiritual evolution that's really at work here. So I give great thanks for that energy that fills my life and Paul's life and your life. And we honor it today in whatever way we can. And we say thank you, Spirit, for the joy and the recognition of what this life is truly about. Happy Father's Day. And so it is.